I've been hooked on the village of Gaoluo ever since my first visits there over the New Year's rituals in 1989. And what so attracted me was not only the village's living ritual traditions, but the personalities of the villagers themselves. Through my regular visits over the next 15 years, they looked after me with great kindness and humour and gave me a really inspiring education. Now, it's all very well publishing a book like this with loads of photos in black and white, and even the audio CD that comes with it can't really convey the vibrancy of ritual life in a village like this. So what we really need is a film. Hello. So here we go.
Throughout poor villages on the plain just south of Beijing, amateur ritual associations serve funerals and calendrical rituals, enduring tribulations under successive regimes.
These groups are charitable associations. Many have sectarian names, but the titles often include the term 音乐, music, referring strictly to the solemn classical style of wind ensemble transmitted from Buddhist and Daoist temples. The ritual soundscape consists of 3 types of music: 声管, wind ensemble, percussion, and scripture recitation. The climax of the annual calendar is the New Year's rituals before the gods in the lantern tent, representing the wishes of the whole village for peace and prosperity.
We gained useful background on Gaoluo from village literature Shanfui. In the politically charged times of 1965, he was given the task of writing the village history from the Ming Dynasty founding right through to the 1949 liberation. Our earliest clues to the ritual life of the village are precious scrolls, sectarian manuals that have miraculously survived from the 18th century. By the late 19th century, some village families had converted to Catholicism. In 1900, as the Qing dynasty was collapsing, serious social tensions led to the Boxer Uprising, supported by village ritual associations. In Gaoluo itself, there was a notorious massacre of the village Catholics. From the 1920s, surviving Catholic families in the area were re-evangelized by Italian priests from Verona, led by Bishop Tarcisio Martina. This stimulated a competitive revival of the village's own ritual associations. Through the 1930s, the whole region was in turmoil under bandit raids and Japanese occupation. But in 1943, a cultured teacher from a nearby village made exquisite copies of Gaoluo's old precious scroll telling the story of the goddess Hotu, both for his own village sect and for Gaoluo. During the 1940s, underground communist heroes emerged in Gaoluo, like Cai Fuxiang and Cai Yongchun, who were both also outstanding performers of the village's religious scriptures. The 1949 liberation promised a relief from years of conflict, but from the mid-1950s, increasing collectivization led to a devastating national famine. Still, even in 1959, in another village nearby, a former Buddhist monk managed to train disciples.
With everyone back in the village for New Year, the association members refresh their memory of the long instrumental suites by reciting the gongchi solfeggio outline of the melodies. Later, they rehearse with the instruments ornamenting the skeletal melodies of the score. Before dawn on New Year's Day, at the house of the kindly Cai An, the family make offerings to the ancestors in the courtyard and eat dumplings together with lashings of garlic and vinegar. On the third day of the first moon, families make offerings at the graves of their ancestors. Over this period, villagers requested the association to perform several funerals. Next morning, the association escorts the palanquin to the burial grounds outside the village. After the famine eased in 1961, there was a brief but crucial revival of traditional culture when a group of keen teenage boys learned the vocal liturgy with their master Cai Fuxiang. Soon after the Cultural Revolution broke out in 1966, factional warfare spread from the towns to Gaoluo. But even then, the young Cairan, who was himself a Red Guard, managed to rescue the village's Hotu precious scroll. Once the commune system collapsed in the late 1970s, Cairan served briefly as village chief, again while taking part keenly in the vocal liturgy. Through this period, there was a vast revival of local ritual traditions all over China, and in our association, there was a core group of senior members from the old society. The formidable leader He Qing steered the association through the years of Maoism and was at the head of the 1980s revival. Younger recruits like the great maestro Cai An had learned in that brief interlude between the famine and the outbreak of the Cultural Revolution. He assumed the task of maintaining the ritual tradition. He was now running a general store with his wife just opposite the ritual building. Another great performer of the Hotu precious scroll was the career party member Li Wenbin. Under all regimes, the cadres of villages like this have felt a great responsibility to protect the ritual heritage of their associations. While He Qing was on his deathbed, Cai Yurun took over, both as village party secretary and as leading guanzi, oboe player in the association. Another deeply committed ritual musician was village policeman Shan Rongjing. Tradition excludes women from taking part as performers, but they are devout worshippers and keen supporters of the association. The village may be quite remote from the county town, but it was never isolated from modernity or the outside world. In the 1930s, village kids used to love going to Bishop Martina's house to listen to his wound-up gramophone. After the end of the Cultural Revolution, as the commune system disintegrated, children began getting a better education, and people migrated to nearby towns and cities in search of work, as TV and pop music became common. 3 decades of Maoism had protected such villages from these developments, but they hadn't entirely succeeded in eradicating tradition.
One significant moment that consolidated our bond was getting my head shaved by the village barber, much to everyone's amusement. All this was still a decade before groups like this were hijacked by the razzmatazz of the intangible cultural heritage system, with its sanitized packaging of traditional culture, quite removed from its function in local society.
All 4 ritual associations in North and South villages have their own public building, which during the annual rituals functions as a temple or lantern tent. The New Year's rituals over 4 days around the 15th of the first moon are called seated at the altar to receive the gods and seek their blessings for the community to ensure well-being. They open the altar for the first time on the 12th. The complex balletic symbol patterns of the percussion suite evoke the mudras of Buddhist and Daoist ritual. They learned with the help of mnemonics, a composite aide-memoire based on the sounds of the 2 types of large symbols for and now and the drum patterns. To open the altar this morning, they sing the powerful, exorcistic, pseudo-Sanskrit mantra incantation of Pu'an. Later that morning, all 4 ritual associations in South and North villages go on procession to pay mutual respects. First, our association sets off from the ritual building. They are greeted by the Eastern Lantern Association of South Village, known as Guanyin Hall. They proceed together to North Village, which has its own Guanyin Hall. The groups combine to play the percussion suite. The South Village Eastern Lantern Association plays the incantation of Pu'an. These 2 Eastern Lantern Associations play in the more folksy southern style, adding large guans, oboe, and bowed fiddle. All 4 groups arrive back at our South Village ritual building, combining to play the incantation of Pu'an again. Our group holds its annual banquet at the house of Shan Minghui, while Cai An occasionally reminds people of the association's moral purpose. Other groups perform too, notably the village Catholics, demonstrating with their brass band. With a fine sense of irony, they wear old police uniforms. As well as the Shaolin Martial Arts Association. On the evening of the 15th, the lantern tent is packed as worshippers offer incense in the courtyard outside. And the association plays the long suit Ma Yu Lang. The vocal performers recite sections of the Houtu precious scroll, and then they sing the incantation of Pu'an, now with the Shengguan ensemble. Next morning, they open the altar for the last time. This time, including the heart scripture. On this last evening, they recite sections of the Hotu precious scroll again. And finally, they recite the hymn to escort the gods away. And they go outside to burn the god petitions.
Almost 30 years have gone by since I filmed that footage, and it already seems like ancient history. Revisiting all this material makes me feel so nostalgic. You can see what a deeply serious business it is. And sure, it's fragile, but they've been so tenacious in maintaining the village's ritual traditions through successive ordeals. Invasion and civil war before liberation, the years of Daoist campaigns and famine, and new challenges since the 1980s reforms. Society changes constantly. Over New Year, they delight in playing the percussion suite every day, but on the final evening they give the most inspiring performance. the solemn and exhilarating suite, indeed the whole ritual tradition, clearly means a lot to them. We all enjoyed this experiment at the house of Caian, as he and Cai Yuzhun patiently took me through the 7 sections, helping me get a grip on the piece by reciting the mnemonics while demonstrating the actions of the large symbols called bo. You can feel the immense satisfaction that they derive from working through all the twists and turns.
刚开始用长3拍开一个很短的小头，然后就是7正身。正身这7声呢，第1声跟哪一声都不一样，第2声跟第5声有很相似的地方，第3声呢跟第6声有很多相似的地方，第4声跟第7声有点相似的地方，但是它绝对不一样。在第5声以后。 中间要加一个这个长3拍这个和气过气线要加点这个是很随意的。那根据打的速度快慢，如果打的速度太快了呢，要加的短一点；打的速度过长，过快了，那就要求加的短一点。看到了第6声和第7声中间呢，还是同样加点长3拍和气过气线。 要加点这个，它的说起来有什么多少意义，这个还说不上，反正就是你这个老年人们慢慢传下来的，就老是沿袭着往下传，到现在呢都翻到现在。
The mnemonics are composite, focusing on the balletic movements of the bo symbols. The invariable sound of the now symbols is represented by the sound tong. And the major role of the drum, which holds all this together, is also heard in occasional mnemonics.
就看查理查理查通查查查理查通查通查。 查理当当儿通查通，查理通儿一通查通通，查通通查一查查，查通子通查。
They managed to stick together so far, but then they veered off into another section. So later, swapping roles, they go over section 1 again more accurately.
一声分别，现在开始。查理查理查通查查。 查通一，查通查通，查理当当儿通查通，查理通儿一通查通通，查通通查一。 查通子通查，通查一查查通子过过的通查一个通查，通查通查的查通子通着通查。 子通查，个通个通个查理一个查通个龙通子里，查呀个通查的查通子里，查呀个通查的查通着里。
So here's that first section for real. Next, they demonstrate section 2.
这是什么啊？筒儿一个笼筒，桌儿个笼筒，桌筒筒，桌筒筒，茶一个茶茶，茶个笼筒筒个筒茶一个茶茶，茶个笼筒桌里，筒儿一个笼筒，桌筒筒，茶里，字茶个字筒筒。个桌筒筒茶一个茶茶一个筒茶的茶筒筒个茶里个茶筒个笼筒子里个茶筒子筒茶一个筒茶一茶茶筒子过过个筒茶个筒茶筒茶筒茶的茶筒子筒桌个筒个茶。字儿笼筒茶一个筒茶的茶筒筒个茶里个茶筒个笼筒子里，茶一个筒茶的茶筒子里，茶一个筒茶的茶筒桌里。
And here's section 2 for real. And now, here's the suite complete in the majestic performance on the final evening of the New Year's rituals.
No.